The Butt Kicker Gamer 2. What you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
It's time to go clubbing for just a moment on a Sunday night. Last week at Daytona, Taylor Stout brought himself to the Victory Lane Club for the first time in over a year, and this time out, we're in California, and just like 50 Cent, you can find us in the club, the Auto Club, here for the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. Welcome to round 9 of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series Season 1 in 2023, live from the virtual Auto Club Speedway. Hi everybody, Joey Tebben here alongside Taylor Burris in the booth once more with Hugo Luis producing behind the scenes. We've lost the beautiful sights of the mountains, Taylor, but I love the beautiful green scenery behind you. We're going racing California style again. We're California dreaming.
Well, the good news is at least there's a lot warmer conditions in the virtual world than it currently is in the real world. We don't have to worry about snow and get to enjoy the nice green scenery there. And yeah, much more warmer here in our booths compared to where we would be if we were at the actual track this weekend here in Auto Club Speedway.
No weepers to worry about this weekend either here in the PRL. That's very, very good. And we're reaching the end of the schedule, so there may not be weepers on the track, but me and Taylor Burris are going to be a pair of weepers. We're crying because the season's almost over. Next week, the season finale at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's been a long season. It's been an interesting season, as season 1 in every year always is, because of the diversity of tracks in the off season. We had our historic tour to start off the season. Then we had a road course race that was dominantly won by Abner Acosta. We had the craziness of the Super Speedway last week that was won by Taylor Stout. And now we've synced up to the real-life NASCAR schedule, and we're going to end things on a fairly normal way on an intermediate at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The championship, as I mentioned, it is getting to be crunch time. Matthew Long has been the championship leader for basically the entirety of the season, but he still only has a 23-point gap. And as we saw in the Xfinity Series on Wednesday night with another championship battle with Abner Acosta, everything can change very, very quickly. And the critical thing to remember is you cannot drop the last week at Las Vegas. Your results will count no matter what. So even if, say, James O'Brien is still 30 points behind, there is still a mathematical chance of him winning the championship come next week. Chris Hudson and Richard Regan Jr. and Josh Daniels, for that matter, are also going to hope to hang on to a mathematical chance, but that is going to be a very, very distant cause for them. Lou Christian, Waldo Walden, and Pat Harvey are going to have a fun time battling for 7th, and Mr. Byron Johnson is hanging on to the last spot in the top 10. Then in the team standings, it's still reasonably close. Dirty South Racing had a dominant 1-2-3 at Daytona last week. That was not reasonably close, but Private Label Team Hype still holding down the fort. And by the way, Trent Dinkle, I just saw, is in the field tonight, so he's going to get some good points for them, as is James O'Brien and Abner Acosta. Love Racing sits 3rd, still within touching distance, and SGE Esports sit 4th and 5th. Then it's YS Motorsports splitting the 3 SGEs. Aerokinetics have been moving up in the world. They're up to 8th already, and then it's YS Motorsports and Private Label Team Hype, the 2 secondary squads for those 2 teams. Qualifying is currently, or not currently, underway at Fontana. We got about a minute and a half. So first and foremost, we have to thank all the people who make all of this PRL coverage possible. And of course, it all starts with the VCO, the virtual competition organization, helping us out here at RaceSpotTV and helping make every single Precision Racing League broadcast possible this season and every season. This coverage is also brought to you by Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. This coverage is also brought to you by Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, their button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and also get a 5% discount, also using the Precision5 coupon code. Then from Racebox, we slide over to RaceLab. RaceLab apps helps you improve your driving skills. With modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration, you can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at racelab.app. This coverage is also brought to you by The Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products provide an incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat with The Butt Kicker. And still new for this season, only a few more races I can say that, it's Mecha Sim Hardware. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for a high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed and check them out. And second to last, it's Muradness, very, very new for us, coming on in the most recent weeks. Muradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. And last but not least, it is Ninja Trader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Of course you are. Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, Ninja Trader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. Ninja Trader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. And as always, perfectly timed, qualifying is now underway here at Auto Club Speedway. We got a few drivers going out early, getting their laps in as quickly as possible. 4 minutes to go. Got two good ones to do it. Brandon Walters, the first driver out of the pits.
Yeah, Brandon is definitely going to be one to watch here. He's had a little bit of an up and down season, picking up a couple of strong top 10 runs during the course of this championship, but needs to try to see if he can find ways to capitalize on this as he works for the private label team Hype Black team. We'll see if he's able to try and recover, get some much needed points for his team as he tries to see if he can get a little further up in the top 10 in standings.
Brandon was very competitive at Daytona in the Xfinity Series on Wednesday night. He didn't have any teammates in the field, if I'm remembering correctly, but he had a few private label team Hype drivers who were his teammates in this series who aren't necessarily his teammates in that series. And Mr. Sausage and Peppers couldn't quite get the result he wanted, but it's Auto Club. If I remember correctly, Walter is usually pretty strong at the 2-mile D-shaped ovals like this in Michigan, so see if he has still prepared those sausage and peppers tonight. He may still have some pace in the tank.
He may certainly indeed have some pace in the tank here. We're going to see how this will work out for him as he sends it on in across the start-finish line to kick off his first flying lap. And looking like here, he'll get started. He'll move up to P5, a 40.241.
It's a great first lap for Byron Johnson, but as we've seen over the course of the week in this series and in the Xfinity Series and in the Truck Series on iRacing, it's not necessarily that first lap that's always going to be your fastest. There's still going to be a little bit of time once lap 2 comes around.
It really is. You got to try to find ways to pick it up as speaking of that, Abner Acosta to the top of the leaderboard as we watch Richard Pruitt in the SGE Esports Overdrive Chevrolet coming out of turn number 4. You got to be careful with coming off turn 4. The car likes to get a little bit pushy and likes to work its way up the racetrack. You got to be careful with corner exit hitting that wall, and as it comes across the line, the 924 is now in 19th right now for his first lap.
But it is a Christmas tree at the top of the ticker right now. Trent Dinkle went to pole, then Chris Hudson went to pole, now Jeff Chandler has gone to pole. The first driver down into the 39s for the first time this season. Jeff Chandler could be on pole. Abner Acosta can't beat him on lap 2. There's few drivers left who can challenge Jeff Chandler on lap 2 unless Matthew Long has something in the tank.
We're going to see if he can do so here, as Acosta now is able to pick up to second place at 39.983. Chris Hudson next in line possibly. He's still trying to run a little bit of a better lap here, but unfortunately it might be too late left to go in the tank for Acosta, as his lap is pretty much done with qualifying. Matthew Long, 39.950.
That's why I mentioned him. He was the driver who could really rob Jeff Chandler of his dreams. Matthew Long ran a very slow lap one. It was a 40.5, I think. He was running very deliberately slow. And then on lap number 2, just absolutely blew it up. And the championship leader, he wants to make sure Abner's making up no points on him coming into Las Vegas next week.
He certainly does, and we're going to see this happen here as Ken Allen comes across the line, a 40.647 for the 19 Toyota. Taylor Stout, last week's winner, a 41.6. Good enough for P12 for the moment.
Mark Kalin waiting until literally the last possible moment. I don't even know if he got out on track in time to finish 2 laps. He's going to cross the line here with 39 seconds to go. Mark Kalin didn't get his first lap in. He's not going to get a second lap in either. Mark Kalin has waited very, very long. He's waited too long. He only joined the session about 5 seconds ago. It's over in qualifying or before it even started for Mark Kalin.
It certainly is, so it's pretty much game over. He will be starting towards the back half of the field. Unless Mark Kalin's able to pull a 39-second lap here, it's going to be pretty much unfortunate for him, and shows the importance of making sure you try to get in on at a decent time to give you enough time to qualify.
Let's see, Mark Kalin versus the clock. Can he pull off a miracle? No, he knows he doesn't have enough time. He's going to pull off and might as well get a little bit of pit lane entry or pit road entry practice, you know? We've had a lot of green flag runs over the course of this season. You're probably going to have to think about doing some green flag pit stops, so Mark Kalin uses the dying seconds of the session to get a little bit of extra practice in. But up front, a driver who needs no extra practice, Matthew Long, has just been absolutely dominant this season. It's only his second pole of the season, though, and he starts alongside Jeff Chandler. Abner Acosta needs to make up points on Matthew Long to be in contention for the championship next week. He starts alongside Waldo Walden, a great qualifying from him. Chris Hudson had pole for about a millisecond. He fell down to 5th. He starts alongside the returning Trent Dinkle on a part-time basis in the Cup Series this season. And it's Lou Christian, always strong at these 2-mile ovals, starting alongside Mr. Consistency James O'Brien. Byron Johnson, who also almost won at Michigan earlier this season, starts alongside Johan Seminario, who I believe had some bad luck here in the FTF Cup Series earlier this week. Richard Regan Jr. and Dirty South Racing's Taylor Stout make it Dirty South Racing a row 6 lockout behind their teammate on pole. Robert Gamble unlucky 13th alongside Brett Punkari. Josh Daniels, last week's pole sitter, falls to 15th alongside Brandon Walter. Pat Harvey and Robert Besaw Jr. make up row 9. Jay McDonald and Richard Pruitt, row 10. Clayton Ham and Jordan Slater, row 11. Stephen Hassett and Joe Hoggard, 2 of the final drivers to set qualifying lap times, but there's still a few more. Eric Papineau, Ken Olland, Roy Grande, Jose the Funky Cold Medina, and Tama Masi was the last driver to set a qualifying lap time. Charles Sumner, as usual, no lap time on the board for him. He's going to start 30th. Mark Kalin joined the session too late. He'll start 31st. And Aaron Beaver, shotgun on the field. A 32-car field here at Auto Club, expanded over the past couple of weeks. This is one of the biggest fields we've seen since the start of the season. Everybody likes Auto Club, apparently.
Well, if you think about it, this is the last time we'll get to race Auto Club in this type of format for any type of NASCAR Cup Series racing for quite some time, I have to say, unless for some reason we're able to get a sneak preview on iRacing where we get the new configuration added to the circuit here in the near future. But for the time being, in the real world, we will not see this circuit raced ever again.
Here we go. Rolling off a pit road. Matthew Long at the head of the field is a very, very interesting story. He has not been a driver who's had a lot of qualifying pace this season. He's had 1 pole, but so has basically everybody else in the field. There's been a ton of drivers who have gotten 1 pole so far this season, but where his strengths have lied are normally where Abner Acosta's strengths lie, on the long runs. That's where Matthew Long has really run away with things. But this week he's on pole. That's an even more competitive combination to be, when the guy who can save tires better than anybody is still starting ahead of the entire field.
It really is. Great points opportunity for him. Great way to stay ahead of his competitors in this championship. And given the fact we're going to 1.5 miles next week, which is going to be really exciting racing, especially at Las Vegas, this is the track where you want to try to get maximum points here at the very start of the race.
By the way, I've been corrected in the chat by Mr. Johan Seminario. Apparently, he did survive the FTF Cup race at Fontana here a couple of days ago. I think I saw a tweet from Jacob Hitz from practice. I think that's why I got confused. So Johan has got a full race distance of practice under his belt, as I'm sure does the rest of the field. But it's championship leader Matthew Long trying to cement his lead in the championship coming into the season finale next week. He starts on pole for the second time this season, and for the 9th round of the season, it's green at Fontana. Flying start by Jeff Chandler, but trouble on the front straight already is Lou Christian. Chris Hudson's involved. Joe Hoggard runs through the grass. I think a few others may have been involved. There's some others smoking in the background as one driver went flying back onto the racing surface. Lou Christian was out of trouble. I think Charles Sumner was involved as well. Mark Kalin may have had to check up for that as well. But we made it 2 miles. Big trouble already.
A lot of chaos right there coming out of the turn number 4 segment where drivers were just trying to jockey for position. And I think also we talked about how easy these cars can get a little bit light here off of turn number 4, and we'll probably get a good look at here at this replay momentarily.
Yeah, I was one of the personal experiencees of that lightness over the course of the week. I finally actually broke the wheel out and did some official NASCAR racing, and turn 4, it is a bumpy, slidey fest. But in those 2 miles we had, while we wait to figure out what the heck happened to Lou Christian, what a start by Jeff Chandler. Pounced early, used the outside, and stole the lead from our pole sitter almost instantly. But here's the replay.
Yep, it started right there. Chris Hudson, and it looks like to be, unfortunately, Chris Hudson went up the track, made contact with another car. And how about the avoidance from some of, not everyone, but some drivers to avoid Lou Christian as he was coming back up the racetrack.
Yeah, not everybody indeed. Eric Papineau got a little bite out of him, as did Roy Grande. So that was far better than it could have been. When I saw him firing back up the track, I expected bad things, but we've generally survived pretty well. Unfortunately, Lou Christian can't quite say the same. He's probably going to be down pit road here with some heavy damage, as is Chris Hudson.
He certainly is. So with that, is going to put him in a predicament to where he will be starting a little bit further back, but may decide to come down pit road, top off a little bit of fuel, maybe even get some fresh tires to see if he can get a better run in the later going.
Rather incredibly, Lou Christian still runs 7th, so clearly if there was any damage there, he's still just fine. But we ride on board with Jay McDonald here. He saw the whole thing go down. Up ahead of him, big smoke, almost gets into the back of Clayton Ham, just rips the top, hits the wall himself, but other than a little scrape on the right side, I think he's got off scot-free.
Seems to be so, and that's going to be a good night for him so far, even with that little bit of damage, scot-free, and hopefully it won't affect the aero too much.
So no meatballs, which is a good sign. That means nobody had any especially heavy damage, but Eric Papineau was on pit road for 30 seconds, Beaver 7 seconds. We ride on board with Robert Gamble here, who got no damage. He may have some emotional damage, though, because that was very terrifying as Lou Christian fired back up the track.
He certainly did, and that's definitely not a predicament you want to be in, but thankfully he was able to sneak his way through and not have any contact.
All right, the rhythm is getting back to things here. We got 1 lap under green. We've re-racked everything, and now Jeff Chandler, who was so close to starting on pole, ends up back at the front of the field. It was a checked up restart. I'll say that much for Matthew Long. He kind of caught himself napping, and that checked up everybody at the back of the field. How's it going to differ with Jeff Chandler at the front of the field, do you think?
It's going to be probably a little bit of the same for the driver in that number 31, a Bruzy Chevrolet. He's got quite a bit of skills. I've seen him compete. I used to be a former teammate with Jeff Chandler at one point in my career on the iRacing service, so he knows how to get around this circuit for sure.
Who was faster?
We never actually raced heads up against each other, but he did get more wins than I did, so let's just say that.
I mean, I think it's a pretty obvious answer. When Jeff Chandler's on the track and we're in the booth, I think it's always a pretty easy comparison there.
Pretty much. I have to agree with you on that one.
But anyway, Jeff Chandler will lead us back to green. Other than his little switcheroo with Matthew Long, there hasn't been much in terms of changes in the top 10. We ride on board with Trent Dinkle here. Like I said, back in the field, had a terrible start to the season on both the Cup Series and on Wednesday nights in the Xfinity Series. He kind of backed off into a part-time basis for a couple of minutes, tried some F3 competition, but he's back in the field for Fontana. He rides on row number 3. The iRacing sedan pace car pulls off, and let's ride with Trent Dinkle on the restart. Somebody might have to check me from 2 miles ago. I think I may have accidentally called him Trent Drinkle, but in either way, he's had a good restart there, stayed completely in position, so if he is Trent Drinkle, he's probably water. He's just dead in the middle, nothing good, nothing bad, still sits fourth. Lou Christian with that big damage, or medium-sized damage, I guess I can say, restarted 7th. He's up to 5th already. That whole incident with Chris Hudson isn't phasing him at all.
It really is not, and he's having a great run here as we see Johan in that number 12 machine. You got James O'Brien, Mr. Consistency in the 33, having a decent run right there inside the top 10 as we ride on board with James O'Brien. Got the chance to talk to him about a week or so ago over in Loxahatchee, Florida for the Florida Winter Tour and had a good run. He's pretty confident how the rest of the season will go for him in 2023. As we'll see him continuing on with private label Team Hype as he looks to the inside of Waldo Walden, but he got a little bit of competition on the outside as they work their way through the middle of turns 1 and 2.
Company man in the private label Team Hype quarter zip there. But James O'Brien has lost his consistency in a way. He had a top 6 in every single race he did this season until Daytona when he came home in a disappointing 8th by his own standards. So when we come to Fontana here, that's his chance to switch things up a little bit and get things better. Off of turn 4, though, drivers not leaving each other very much room as we saw Byron Johnson and Luke Christian almost dooring each other off of 4 a few rows ahead.
They certainly were touring each other quite a bit here in the middle of turns 1 and 2 as we pick up Luke Christians in the SGE Esports Pioneer machine. Having a good run. Ooh, a little bit of a bobble right there. Trying to catch the number of that
Byron
machine.
Johnson.
Byron Johnson having a big bobble. Able to recover nicely, though, as he slides back in line here in the 7th spot.
Covers in front of Taylor Stout and then dives to the inside of Waldo Walden. It's been a great qualifying for Waldo. It's been a great season of qualifying for Waldo. He's found a ton of speed in the one-lap runs. It's kind of fallen apart once race conditions come around, but he's still searching for that elusive first win. Still searching for those top 5s. He slots into 5th or 6th now behind Trent Dinkle. And he's still trying to rip the top.
He is certainly still trying to rip the top indeed. We're going to see some drivers utilize that top lane here in the early stages of the race. Try to build a little bit of rubber up there. Try to see if they can start getting some momentum on their side. For the most part, though, everyone's going to be running to that middle to bottom lane here for the time being. But Waldo Walden really trying to get that outside lane going, and a couple of others trying to run right up against the wall.
Walden still is getting blocked up by Lou Christian. He is going to be a very, very frustrated Waldo in a couple of minutes' time, because every time he gets those runs up on the top, Lou Christian just says, you know what? I'm parking my car up there too. I can use the top as well. You're not getting by me that easy, Waldo.
He's always on the hunt of where is Waldo here on this circuit as we pick up another car riding up there on the top. That seems to be James O'Brien trying to get that outside lane going. as we pick up these drivers here. Byron Johnson, Taylor Stout, Luke Christians having a stellar battle here for the 6th spot, and along with Trent Dinkle.
We know Trent Dinkle is one of those drivers like Abner Acosta, like Matthew Long, who likes to wait a little while. He's not going to get too aggressive early. He's going to save his tires for the long run, sometimes even better than the tire wizard Abner Acosta can do. So he's getting swallowed up here in the middle of the pack, but it's partially by design. He's just hanging back, saving his stuff. Taylor Stout, on the other hand, he seems to be getting aggressive early. He's still trying to make the outside work around Byron Johnson for good reason. He's got to make track position up. He wants to match his win from last week.
And what a track to do it at here at the Auto Club Speedway. Really fun 2-mile circuit. Really want to carry a lot of speed and momentum around the circuit. Not maybe as high speed as we see at Daytona, but we will see some incredible speeds carrying themselves off into turn 1 here as they work off of turn number 4. Single file, but for Jeff Chandler, he's checked out on the field by 1.2 seconds.
Yeah, talking about incredible speeds, Taylor. Jeff Chandler has pulled a 1.2 second gap over Abner Acosta. Acosta isn't even in draft range right now, which is pretty incredible. It's an incredible thing to do on Abner Acosta. Of course, it's going to come down. We have to assume that Abner's definitely saving quite a bit of tire life. He'll be back up there in the future. But as we stand, pulling a 1.2 second gap and literally getting yourself out of draft range, that's pretty impressive from Jeff Chandler.
Well, the thing is now, the question is going to be, I saw this earlier today with some other broadcasted events here, and we saw drivers able to link up together, nose to tail, and pull away from their competition. Now, of course, these are Cup cars compared to what we saw earlier. I saw earlier was in trucks, but seeing drivers not really battling for each other for position in the early stages was allowing them to work together and really pull off a gap ahead of their competitors. So could we see that here? Possibly, but right now for the time being, I don't think that's going to be happening. Everyone's too busy jockeying for position as we pick up Stephen Hassett in his machine trying to work his way through in the Dodge Charger.
It's very fitting that there's 3 YS Motorsports, so there's 3 yellow stripe motorsports cars here, because this is absolutely a hornet's nest with Seminario, Byron Johnson, and Stephen Hassett. Hassett's making the top work. He made it work a little bit too well, though, as he hits the wall, and Seminario hits Regan. Just like in Michigan earlier this season, Richard Regan Jr. gets put in the wall down the front straight. He is not going to be very happy with Johan Seminario.
He certainly is not, and he has fallen outside of the top 25 and going to continue to fall. Severe damage to the suspension. Yeah, he is absolutely done.
The 2-mile ovals and Richard Regan Jr. have not got along at all this season. It was at Michigan in round 2 of this season where he came together with Clayton Ham, had almost exactly the same accident. But let's watch it again. Let's get deja vu.
Yep, there's the contact. Regan could not save the car. Hard contact to the outside wall, and that's going to put him in a very detrimental position, possibly even a DNF.
We're hearing he does have a meatball, so Richard Regan Jr. will be pulling down pit road this time, and I have to imagine he's probably not going to be too inclined to get back out there, because that's going to be some heavy damage for hitting the wall twice on that car, and Richard was already out of championship contention, unfortunately. He's just had so much bad luck this season. He's definitely waiting for Season 2 to start.
He certainly is definitely going to be waiting for Season 2 to start and looking forward to trying to have a big reset button for him coming into the 2023 Season 2 event.
And remember, Richard was the playoff champion. No, he wasn't. Abner Acosta was the playoff championship, or the playoff champion in 2022. What I meant to say was Richard Regan Jr. was the Truck Series champion in 2022 Season 4. So there were some very good things in Richard Regan Jr. land last season. And he'll be back. He'll be back. It's a bad luck run. Lots of drivers have had that, but you're never going to be able to count Richard Regan Jr. out. Evidently, you're not able to count 3 wide out at this track either, because they're continuing to run 3 wide, even as the tires wear, even as we get deeper in the run. We can't avoid it. Still hornet's nest.
And we cannot avoid it indeed, and it's still going to be fighting for every position here. This hornet's nest of drivers just absolutely trying to jockey for position. How about 4 wide almost as they come across the start-finish line here as they try to work their way around Pat Harvey and James O'Brien for that 11th position here. Trying to see if they can catch into the top 10 with Clayton Ham, but it's so great to see the PRL series and having a stellar year all throughout all their series. But of course, some big announcements, Joey, for 2023 Season 2.
It is true. There's a new series next season. Well, we already knew it was a new season, or a new series. We knew that the MX-5s and the GR86s were going to be combined on Monday nights, but some great announcements came out of iRacing over the course of the weekends. We take a look at what happened to Lou Christian. He lifted for some reason coming down the front straight. He was trying to fall to the back, and he just got hip checked through turn 1 for good measure.
He certainly did, and that's going to be a big wiggle right there. Great save by Lou Christian in the 21. Curious to know why he decided to fall back, because he was having a decent run inside the top 15.
All right, who knows what's going on in the Lou Christian world? We'll probably see the world's shortest staircase with him a little bit later, so that'll at least be one little bit of constant with him. But as I was saying, it's not just the MX-5s and the GR86s. It's going to become a full PRL production car challenge series with the new Renault Clio Cup car that iRacing recently announced. So for the first time in PRL history, I believe, it's going to be a 3-class series, not just a 2-class series. And signups are currently open for all PRL series on PrecisionRacingLeague.com. And there will be plenty of spots in that series if you want to play with some of the newest toys on iRacing.
I will say the Clio Cup I have to consider as kind of a meme car, because you see some of the most craziest racing when it comes to the Renault Clio Cup cars.
I'm just curious what's going to be the fastest. I have to imagine it's going to be the GR86, but the MX-5 and the Clio, they're going to be tripping over each other.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, those are the big 3 stepping stones from drivers who want to get out of karting and go into the world of sports car racing. I mean, a lot of sports car drivers go into and here in the United States, go to the MX-5 Cup cars, or even to the brand new Toyota GR86 series, which kicks off in 2023 later on in the year. And then, of course, those who are in Europe, if they want to go into sports cars, go pick up a Clio Cup car.
If you want to participate in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, there's still plenty of spots open there. Still plenty of spots open in the trucks and Xfinity. I think there's still slots open in every single series other than the GT3 series, which have been very, very popular and very, very full. So if you like what you're seeing here in the PRL, if you like watching us on RaceSpot every week, why not go do it yourself? It's great. It's great fun. Both Taylor and I have personally raced in the PRL in different series. It's a great league to get your feet wet in.
It really is, and there's so many different things. I had the privilege of talking to both Jerome and Charles Sumner about there's so many different avenues to go and race in competitive racing, not just like what you see in the official racing, but a really good competitive weekly race where you go with the drivers week in, week out that you're competing with heads up, compared to official where you never know who you're going to get.
Still dicing through the field here in the middle of the field. Taylor Stout, Joe Hoggard, Brandon Walter, Josh Daniels. It's a whole melange of drivers here. Some drivers coming up from the back, moving up in the long run. Other drivers who really showed their hands early, like Taylor Stout, they're starting to feel the effects of going too hard early.
They really are starting to show the effects here, and this is really critical. And as a matter of fact, Abner Acosta has fallen back to P3. Matthew Long, they have caught Jeff Chandler, and they are really closing in. It's now down to almost a tenth of a second between Long and Jeff Chandler as they work down the back straightaway.
Yeah, remember that 1.4 second gap for the lead a little bit earlier? Let's divide that by 100. Let's make that a 1.4 gap. And now it's not a gap at all as Matthew Long takes the lead back.
Matthew Long pulls a beautiful slide job in front of Jeff Chandler at a turn number 4 to retake the race lead here. And he will now try to see if he can maintain and hold on to this position as for a few moments. But I will wait to see what Abner Acosta will do.
Chandler's still going up to the top, which is very interesting. He's been trying to make that work, but evidently it has been ripping the tires. There goes Matthew Long down to the bottom. This was the move for the lead. Some might think that when you rip the top, you're turning the wheel less, Taylor, but it does not save the tires ripping the top up there. It's a physical trade.
It really does, and not indeed here. And it's got to be so careful with how you're setting up your tires for the run here as we pick up a little bit further back between Acosta as he's trying to get around Jeff Chandler, Walden, and Trent Dingle right there in the mix. Johan Seminario right there also in 6th position closing in.
It's something I've never personally been able to figure out in the ovals, but it is something that Abner Acosta, the tire wizard, is absolutely fantastic at. Just riding, doing his own thing, holding back, being conservative, saving the tires until he absolutely needs to use them. Abner has been the master of that over the past couple of seasons. Matthew Long has matched him this season or even bettered him this season. Jeff Chandler is just trying to recover, but he's still up there all the way at the wall.
He really is here as we ride on board with Johan Seminario as he tries to snake his way up a position into the top 5. Gets a good tow from the slipstream right there from Waldo Walden. Then decides to go to the outside lane. Still gets a tow right there from Jeff Chandler. Really sends it in deep, but you got to be careful with how far you want to send it in because that's going to wear and tear these tires severely as the run progresses.
Seminario's running so high that he's had to start lifting on the exit of the corner. He's losing his momentum, any momentum that he would have gained from running up there. Seminario clears Walden. Seminario moves down to the bottom. He's going to clear Chandler now. This is the best race we've seen from Johan Seminario all season, easily.
It really is, and they are really going to put on a stellar run for this race here as we see Seminario moving up into 4th. And he is not done yet. I have a feeling he could challenge for a podium here tonight.
This is the highest we've seen this Dodge all season. And I don't say this as an insult to Johan Seminario, but he has not been running up front all season. He's been running with some of his other YS Motorsports teammates a little bit further back, but he's challenging Trent Dinkel for 3rd now. He's passing Trent Dinkel for 3rd, last season's champion.
Last season's champion definitely really under a lot of struggle from Trent Dinkel as we see Johan Seminario moving back up another position. Chandler really trying to get the outside lane going, but it's not working for him so far. It's keeping him in contention, but how much is he using up those tires?
It's been a reasonably long green flag run here. We got back to green around lap 5, so it's only been about 20 laps or so. It's not the longest stint in the world, but we are getting to the point where those tires are starting to fall apart, and we are starting to get to the point where drivers are thinking strategy-wise. Can you get to halfway? Can you get to lap 52, 53? Or are you still going to have to think about making it a 2-stop?
We're going to see that here in a minute as we watch on and continuing the battle here. As we continue to watch with Trent Dinkel, who is down on the bottom of the racetrack. Chandler trying to see what he can hold on to, but not going to work.
Eric Papineau has been he's been disconnected from the race. Forgive me. Not disqualified. He's done nothing wrong. Unfortunately, his internet has had other ideas, though, and Eric Papineau has come to the behest of the internet gods, and he has been disconnected from the middle of the race. But we still watch Jeff Chandler here ripping the top on that last lap. He was faster than Dinkel, apparently. The timesheets tell us. But you have to imagine that can only work for so long. That can't be sustainable.
It certainly cannot be sustainable indeed here, and he's got to be careful with the tire degradation here. We're already a little over a quarter distance of tonight's race. We have seen these drivers stretch down anywhere between 30 to 40 laps. The question is how far you want to stretch it with your tires.
So we're hearing that you can still go about 20, 23, 24 laps, so you can make it to halfway. But the question is, will the tires make it to halfway? Will those tires go down to that elusive 0% and literally pop? Or are you going to be able to extend things until halfway in the race? If you're Jeff Chandler, you're probably not going to be able to. But you do have to look back in the field. Some drivers who you'd expect to be further up, like Josh Daniels, are they deliberately saving to make it to halfway?
They probably could be, but it's not the right move really to save that much because it's a one-stop race. Tires are going to be so critical later in the going. You want to have the freshest tires, might as well use them.
Waldo Walden holding back the wall on Clayton Ham, who in the 7 is up to 7th. A little numerology for you there. But Clayton Ham has been riding in silence. He has been very, very sneaky after a disappointing qualifying for him. He's back in the field, though. Another driver who's been not full-time this season. He's been out for a couple of races, but he's back in it, and he's passing his teammate Byron Johnson.
He certainly is, and he is already going to try to work his way a little further up the field. Byron Johnson really trying to showcase some talent here as we see Clayton Ham try to hold on for dear life, getting around Jeff Chandler for the 6th spot. Those two have been making some moves in headway.
Look at James O'Brien in P9, getting by Robert Gamble, now getting by Byron Johnson. Mr. Consistency. It's not a top 6 streak anymore, it's a top 8 streak, but he's back in the top 8. Might still be alive.
Might still be alive indeed here, and really putting on a stellar drive as here he comes down to the inside of Clayton Ham and Byron Johnson. Really going to try to make it work. So far, not going to work here as we see the two SGE drivers. Actually, those are the HPM drivers, I should have to say, who are now going to go up to the top side.
It's a whole complicated mix of teammates out here, but some drivers still having to lift, getting out of these troubled situations. Byron Johnson, Chandler, James O'Brien, 3 wide down the front straight, and they're not leaving each other any room at all.
They certainly are not. They are going to jockey and battle for position 3 wide through the middle of the corner.
Still 3 wide through the middle of the corner, still 3 wide to the exit of the corner. James O'Brien trying to make the bottom work. It's not going to work for him. Chandler's going to hang on with the momentum on the top. Nothing changes, but when you see 3 drivers leaving each other that little room, you might start thinking about that caution coming out and preventing any of this strategy we've been talking about.
It certainly is the case here. You got to be ready to call an audible any time of the race here to set yourselves up for a bit of a run. But right now, everyone's just really trying to drop the hammer.
Byron Johnson gets try number 2 on Jeff Chandler into turn 1. Is the bottom going to work better for Byron this time? It looks like the answer is no, as his teammate Clayton Ham is just going to keep running away. Momentum on the top continues to work for Jeff Chandler as Johnson tries to get a little bit of a side draft, but Chandler has been so strong hanging on that high line. Byron Johnson has to struggle for yet another day through 3 and 4.
He certainly does, and he's got to hold on here for dear life as they work their way through the middle of turn 3 and 4. Chandler, can he hold on the outside lane? The big Mo is helping him keep him up there at the top side.
And now we've got some critical help here. James O'Brien using the bumper, giving Byron Johnson a little bit of a push, and that is the help Byron needed to get by Jeff Chandler. Byron Johnson up into P7 now, and now he only sees his teammate Clayton Ham ahead of him, who I do need to correct myself. He's not been part-time this season. That was an exaggeration. He's only missed 1 race this season. But the reason I think that, or the reason I thought that, is because it's been a season of bad luck for Clayton Ham as well. He got his first win a couple of seasons ago at Daytona. He's had so much promise, but he's also been one of those drivers who's run into a ton of bad luck, and he hasn't quite shown all of his promise in every week.
He certainly has not, and he's got to make sure he can showcase that here as the race progresses through this race in order to see what he can take and add notes on for next season. For some of these drivers who are a little bit further in the field, they got to go back to the drawing board to see what they can do to improve in order to challenge with some of the super teams, such as private label Team Hype, as well as also the Dirty South Racing team.
Remember when I mentioned Josh Daniels just kind of riding around in the back, not really showing himself? Well, the Dirt Devil is on the scene. You can see that bright red Camaro in the background. It's already up into the top 12, and he's currently challenging Taylor Stout and Chris Hudson, both of whom are slightly damaged in one way or another, but yeah, Mr. Josh Daniels has decided now's the time to turn it up as green flag pit stops are underway. On lap 35, Johan Seminario is in, Ham, a ton of the YS Motorsports drivers, and James O'Brien as well.
James O'Brien really coming down pit road. Let's see if anyone makes sure they don't get caught speeding. It's very tricky to come down pit road. You can carry a bunch of speed around here, so you have to be careful with the run.
Here we go. James O'Brien into the box. Nobody overcooking it. Nobody getting any penalties as far as we know. But the 64 of Johan Seminar, or Joe Hoggard rather, did have his own trouble. So he didn't get a penalty, but he did absolutely blow up his box as everybody gets off here without trouble. But your race leader, Matthew Long, is in. Trent Dinkle is in as well. The pit cycle is well and truly in motion here. It doesn't seem like anybody wants to wait until halfway.
Nobody does, and they're going to try to see what they can do during the stage of the race as they race their way off of pit road. Trent Dinkle caught behind one of the Dirty South drivers as they make their way off pit road. Now we're going to see how much of it is as we see Matthew Long make his way into the pit box along with Trent Dinkle.
Oh, Trent Dinkle was too far to the left, and he also overcooked his box. So that's a critical mistake for Trent Dinkle there. That's going to be a critical couple of tenths on his return to the Cup Series. It's a mistake for Trent Dinkle, but here comes Taylor Stout. Is Chris Hudson going to follow him in? No, he's not. Yes, he is. Chris Hudson, I don't think, could decide what he wanted to do. Eventually, he gets on the brakes and does get it slowed down. Abner Acosta, your race leader's in as well. Slater is in. Pruitt and Medina, though, two guys who tend to be risk takers. They're hoping for the caution.
They're hoping for the caution indeed. We'll see if that plays out for them as they get themselves set up for quite a bit of a run as they enter into their pit box. Taylor Stout, oh, got to be careful with your pit entry. A little bit too slow, I have to say, right there, as they now exit off from the back. Some of these drivers who are exiting off pit road.
It's actually more drivers than I thought staying out. Every driver in the top 9 from the top 8 rather, from Richard Pruitt to Aaron Beaver, they're all going for that alternate strategy. These are drivers who were already at the back of the field, who weren't necessarily fighting for the win on pace, but they're throwing some things to the board and hoping that the caution, if it does come out, flies their way. Jose Medina's given up early. He's down pit road, but for the likes of Brett Pancari, he does these things a lot. He likes to stay out and go off strategy.
He certainly does, and he is pulling a very different strategy call here. Okay, we've seen some drivers earlier this week to where they can be able to run it as far as they can, try to hope maybe for a caution to come out of where it puts them on the better strategy call.
Richard Pruitt holds the race lead right now by 5.5 seconds. The Melendez Online Digital Consulting entry getting himself some good TV time as we tune back into Trent Dinkel after that one mistake on pit road. He was right with his teammate Abner Acosta. He's lost 2 seconds in the pit cycle.
Oh, that's going to be detrimental for Trent Dinkel. He is still in the top 10, but he's got quite a bit of running up to make up time here for this race. Thankfully, there's still quite a bit of racing. We haven't hit halfway yet, but it's going to be difficult for this stage of the race.
He's lucky, though, because look at who's in his mirror. It's his nice little buddy, James O'Brien, in a different paint scheme this week. I should mention, I haven't mentioned this yet. I haven't got the chance to look at it closely enough. It's not just bright red anymore, which is unfortunate for us. It's more difficult to pick James O'Brien out of a lineup. But he's got like flames on there, or maybe it's roses. It's a new paint scheme, and maybe that's good luck for James O'Brien. Or maybe it's bad luck. You never tell.
You have to wait and see, but he is going to try to work with his teammate, possibly of Trent Dinkel, as we ride on board with him in that very dark red and black machine now all over the back bumper.
It's lightning bolts.
It is lightning bolts.
Red lightning. Who'da thunk? Sounds like a AAA baseball team, the Red Lightning.
Red Lightning indeed here, as we see how quickly the Grease Lightning team can work their way up to the field.
Is that the new nickname for private label team hype?
I mean, we can give here on RaceSpot, we can give them a nickname of Grease Lightning.
Well, maybe that's why they always blow through the pit boxes, because there's too much grease.
Possibly.
We've solved the mystery. That's what we come here for on Sunday nights.
We solve a lot of mysteries here on PRL Sunday Night Cup Series.
It's no mystery, though. The two teammates still working together. James O'Brien just riding behind, occupying the team line, giving his teammate a little bit of a push when he can. But again, these are two guys who are not going to show their speed right now. They're only 5 laps into this run. There's still 63 laps left to go in this race, over 120 miles. We're barely even getting started.
We are barely getting started here as we see Brett Pancari, and is he watching a... What is he watching on there? He has something.
That's curling.
Well, I'm surprised he doesn't have like the NASCAR Xfinity race on.
I mean, Brett, I think that McCarville jersey in the background, we've heard from Brett Pancari in the past that he is a curling guy. Him and Austin Hunter living up to that curling contingent in the PRL. And Brett Pancari has curled his way into the lead as Richard Pruitt is finally ditching this strategy. He's not interested in it anymore. He still gets the car slowed down remarkably because those 2 front tires were not rolling at all coming into that box for a good 100 feet.
He certainly is, as we see him now coming down pit road and going to try to get on pit road. But the problem is he's going to fall like a rock outside the top 20.
There's the Richard Pruitt cam. Always happy to see him on the camera, and always reminded that is not a cat behind him. I always think that's a black cat, but no, it's just a pillow for that nice upper neck support. And he's also got the checkered flag shower curtains in the background, so he's got everything.
Oh, that is a GT Racing desk chair, I'd have to say. So very comfortable. I have one myself personally.
Abner Acosta not comfortable at all, though. The yellow striped private label team hype entry in the center of 3 yellow striped motorsports drivers. Which one of those 2 immovable forces comes out on top? In the short run, you got to say it's the guys who have been ripping the top all night long, and Clayton Ham and Byron Johnson are going to blow by Abner for the moment.
Watching here as we see Brent Pancari try to hold off Mark Kalin, as we see now the 2-8 Premier Racing drivers now having a good fight with Abner Acosta for that 5th position. Acosta tried to send it in a little bit deeper, but could not make it stick, and now has to go up the track a little bit.
I really thought Byron had him off of turn 2 there. That's why I was a little bit ahead of myself. Byron Johnson is now stuck behind Abner for the moment. He's stuck behind the Tire Wizard while his two teammates try and run away. But here comes Byron again on the attack. Not necessarily, though. Just rides in line with Abner Acosta. He's not interested in running the top. Is this some character development from Byron Johnson? Is he trying to steal some tire-saving tips from the Wizard?
He might be doing so, and what a great way to learn, and by following the Tire Wizard himself, try to save a little bit of tires here and try to get a good run out through the middle of the corner here. You notice they're running right up against that white line, except for Byron Johnson, who's going to try to go the long way around to get around Acosta.
Yeah, I think I might have spoken too early, Taylor. I thought he was just riding behind, learning. He was doing some character development, but no, this is still the same YS Motorsports driver, Byron Johnson, we know and love. He's instantly back to the top, and this time, I think he's going to be able to make the momentum work with the help of his teammates off of turn 2. There goes Byron Johnson past Abner Acosta.
He gets a great run down the back straight with the help of the tow from Clayton Ham. That will move Acosta back to 8th position. Robert Gamble, the next car behind him, in 9th. He's got help with Trent Dinkel as those two try to hunt down Acosta in the middle of 3 and 4.
Mark Kalin is finally in. He can't make it to halfway, so Mark Kalin down pit road this time. Brett Pancari and Tom Amasi are still just hoping they can make it 5 more laps, 6 more laps. Question is, even if they can make it that far, I don't think they'll still be leading the race, because Matthew Long right now is running 2 seconds a lap faster than Brett Pancari. He's only 8.5 seconds behind.
He certainly is only 8.5 seconds behind. They're going to try to see what they can do down the back straightaway here, try to get a good run down their way through. And as they hold on here and try to get a great run, not going to make it work. Acosta sends it in deep, tries to carry as much speed as he can, but he got to be careful. Those tires are not as grippy as what we see. Remember, track conditions here, track temp 100 degrees, and possibly getting a little bit warmer as the race goes on.
Got Abner's older brother, Jose Acosta, in the chat. I think that's the first time we've seen him in a while. And that's very interesting, though. He might be doing some research, because next season, I've been looking at the signups. I think we're going to get Jose Acosta in this series. I think it's going to become an Acosta family affair.
Ooh, very interesting. As with a little bit of trouble right there for the driver of the number 18 of Byron Johnson. Hits the wall coming off turn 2. This gives the opening for Acosta.
Abner down onto his favorite bottom, and once again, clear of Byron Johnson. And Byron's going to be worrying about a little bit of right side damage now. It wasn't a big hit of the wall, but at a place that's as fast as this in these next-gen cars, even that little bit of damage can hurt you pretty bad.
It certainly can hurt your run quite a bit as we watch these 4 drivers try to jockey around for position. This is for the battle for P4. Seminario still holding strong by about a car length over Clayton Ham as they come off of turn number 2. Acosta gets a little bit of the sniff of the draft to try to see if he can get himself towed down the back straightaway to see if he can set up a pass on Clayton Ham in the 7.
Here comes Abner again. Tom Amasi calling himself into the box this time. He's going to ditch this strategy in the Genesee entry. Also, Mark Kalin, who waited so long to come in. He got it slowed down. He did a great job. And what did Mark Kalin do? He got a black flag for speeding on exit. You do so much work to get these things slowed down on pit road. And sometimes you forget that you can speed on exit as well.
You certainly can speed on exit, so you have to be so careful with that here as they try to get themselves set up for a little bit of a run down the back straightaway. But you got to be careful. It's so critical to not make any mistakes, such as speeding under green flag conditions.
And Brett Pancari is called out in this time on lap 50. Is he in a little bit too short? I don't think you can make it 55 laps to the end of this race, but I don't think he's intending to make this a one-stop necessarily. I think he was just desperately hoping for that caution, and it just didn't come. So Brett Pancari is going to fall all the way to the back of the field. He's not going to go a lap down, which is a little bit of solace, and he will have fresher tires than the rest of the field. Looks like, at least in the short term, the gamble has not paid off for Brett Pancari.
Certainly has not indeed paid off for Brent Pancari, who will have to fall outside of the top 20 for a little bit of this race here and possibly go a lap down due to the fact of the situation.
Abner Acosta on Clayton Ham for 3rd here. Now that the pit cycle's over, every position is now correct in the grand scheme of the race. This is officially for 3rd, and it certainly looks it as Abner Acosta almost gets into the door of Clayton Ham.
really trying to battle hard with Clayton Ham here as they go side by side down into turns 1 and 2. Seminario trying to pull away a little bit, has a 0.4 of a second lead over these two as they'll still remain side by side till the middle of turns 1 and 2. Out of turn number 2, Acosta gets a nose out over Clayton Ham, but Ham powers back on the outside.
And these are critical points for Abner Acosta coming into the championship finale next week. First and foremost, he needs to think about beating Matthew Long, but right now that's looking like a very, very difficult task. So his secondary task is just making sure he doesn't lose even more points to Matthew Long, making sure it's like a 20-point gap instead of a 30 or a 40-point gap. He's having quite a tough time with things, though, because Clayton Ham is not giving up this spot.
Well, the thing is, since we're going to Vegas, he needs to make sure he's in the right odds for having a shot at the championship. So far, the betting odds for Acosta winning the championship not looking too good right now.
He needs one of those C words, one of those yellow words to really shake everything up.
Yeah, don't you put that evil on us there, Joey Tevin.
It hasn't really come close since that little kerfluffle with Lou Christian and Chris Hudson, but we've seen Brandon Walter have a few issues on his own. We do have to remember that even on old tires, as things start to get very tight, this is still a very slippy and very slidey racetrack, and it's a very hot racing surface right now. I think we're still in the triple digits.
We certainly are still in the triple digits, and it's a matter of seeing how well these drivers are able to handle their cars around this circuit in order. And with these two battling, it's bringing in Waldo Walden, Trent Dinkle, and now Byron Johnson has fallen to 7th, but he's still within the mix for this battle for the 3rd position between Clayton Ham and Acosta.
I think Abner's going to be dreaming of Clayton Ham tonight. Not in a good way. He's just going to have that image of that 7 to his outside just glued into his brain. He cannot get rid of him. And you can see the time they're losing running like this. On that last lap, Matthew Long did a 41.5. Ham and Acosta both did 41.8s.
Yeah, they have lost over 2.5 seconds to race leader Matthew Long. Seminario, they lost about a good 0.6 of a second over him as well. So with these two battling, which now Acosta finally clears Clayton Ham, they are now able to see if they can set themselves up for a bit of a run to hunt down your top 2.
Trent Dinkle's next on the scene, hoping that it doesn't take as long for him as it did for his teammate to get by Clayton Ham off of turn 4. It's a good run for Dinkle. Again, most drivers using... There's no driver in the field who's using the same line as another. Trent Dinkle, Clayton Ham, Abner Acosta, Waldo Walden, they're all running completely different lines through 3 and 4. And that's one of the bonuses of Auto Club. There is so much racing room and there's so much opportunity for creativity as Trent Dinkle gets very creative with a car-sized gap.
He absolutely saw the gap and just sent it in there and held on for dear life. Trent Dinkle, though, makes a beautiful pass on Clayton Ham. Waldo Walden's going to try to copy that same position as they head off into turn 3, trying to see if he can get around Trent Dinkle for 4th. Not going to work.
Now it's Waldo Walden versus Clayton Ham off of turn 4. Trent Dinkle gets a little bit of a wiggle himself. We're starting to see drivers get a little bit antsy, get a little bit dicey. We're past halfway in the race. It's been a very long run. We're starting to see drivers realize this is the halfway point in the race. We got to start getting more aggressive.
We certainly do have to start getting more aggressive, even though we are past the halfway point. Still quite a bit of racing left to go where you start to still need to consider things you have to be careful with.
There's Walter on the nose of the Waldo Walden mobile as always. Does he have the dog in him? That's a question for the chat, but he's still trying to hold off Byron Johnson, who's back to the top. And all of Walter's might, all of his might cannot do anything for the number 18 of Byron Johnson, who finds his YS Motorsports teammate on the top, and there he goes.
Certainly is here, and he will move on. And Waldo Walden, though, starting to fall back just a hair. He's now fallen back to 7th into the clutches of Byron Johnson and Clayton Ham, who are now trying to see if they can have a shot of working their way through. Meanwhile, Acosta has caught up to Seminario. He's about under 0.2 of a second behind.
He is moving. We just heard from Andrew Sharp in the chat. Is he a biased commenter? I think he is, as a YS Motorsports stablemate of Byron Johnson. But actually, I was talking about Waldo Walden, so I guess he's not biased. He's not a teammate of Waldo Walden's. You'll see Andrew Sharp on Monday night on the championship finale of the GR86 series. It should be very exciting. I should probably remember what track that is. It's completely leaving my mind right now, but it is championship finale week here in the PRL. It starts with round 9 here, but next Sunday it'll be the championship finale for the series, and over the course of this week, it's the finale for every single other PRL series, as Abner Acosta gets to the inside of Johan Seminario.
He certainly is here. We're going to see the action really kick off here, as here comes Acosta to the inside of Seminario. He will complete the pass. A beautiful drive for Acosta as they approach on to lap 60.
Now can Seminario at least hang on to a top 3? That's what he's hoping for, but if you're hoping to hang on to a top 3, you probably don't want to see Trent Dinkle behind you, because you know, just like Abner, he's got a ton of tire life underneath him. He's got a ton of tire saving ability. Seminario's journey is not over yet.
It certainly is not here. We're going to see how this will play out amongst these 3 competitors, as here comes Trent Dinkle, now going to try to see if he can get his way by to go and help his teammate to go and hunt down Matthew Long.
There's Trent again. He slowly but surely puts more things behind him. He's got the wheel box behind him. He's got the Rockies flag behind him. He's actually got curtains. I think I see a Sprite can on the floor. That room slowly gets populated more and more. It's no Richard Regan Jr. with all the water bottles, but Trent's doing some interior design. He's getting there.
He's getting there indeed. We'll see some more stuff go on as he progresses further and further with this career here with the private label. And we'll see what he's able to do here as he tries to send it into the inside of Seminario.
He's certainly been aggressive. He's kind of scaring Johan Seminario into running a little bit high and opening the door. And off of turn 4, Dinkle does have a little bit of a run. We saw what Trent was able to do to Johan's teammate Clayton Ham. Trent doesn't need very much of a gap to get up into the position ahead, so we'll see if he goes for it again here into turn 1. Seminario leaves the lane open. Dinkle can't quite get low enough through the middle of the corner to make the move, though.
He does not get to make the move here, as Seminario will have to hold on for a little bit longer, as we're going to be closing in on another pit stop here in probably about another 10 or so laps.
Trent had a pretty good run there, but just couldn't do anything with it. Just died out with a wall of air. But again, through 3 and 4, running much, much lower than Seminario was able to. Off of 4, though, again, that top momentum, it's the trade-off. Seminario's weaker on entry, better on exit. That's always frustrating for the trailing driver.
It really is, and you got to try to have to deal with a lot of that dirty air. It was talked a lot about in the NASCAR Cup race earlier today of how the aero wash can really affect the handling of these cars. You see there Trent Dinkle sawing at the wheel a little bit, and with these old tires, it is definitely a handful.
Barely trying to hang on to the left rear quarter panel of Johan Seminario there, and he did. He just barely hung on for the teensiest bit of side draft, and that's all Trent Dinkle needed to actually get to the inside. Move's not done yet. Again, Seminario's got that momentum off of 4, but Dinkle is the furthest alongside he's been. This is progress.
It is progress indeed as they come across the line. He might get a sniff of the draft from Acosta, but so far not enough to make sure he can get that 3rd position, get the nose out ahead of Seminario as they head off into turns 1 and 2. Can he clear him off turn 2? He can maybe pull up in front, slide job, and moves up to P3.
Now, what can the private label team hype drivers do for Matthew Long? That is the question. Last lap for Matthew Long, 42.15. Last lap for Abner Acosta, 42.08. So Abner is just that little bit faster, but that's only a 10th per lap. Abner needs to be quite a bit quicker than that if he wants to bring down a 2.3 second gap, and Dinkle needs to be even faster.
He certainly does. They're 3.4 seconds back from your race leader, so they got quite a bit of work to do here as the field gets themselves set up here, heading back into turns 1 and 2. As we watch the battle for P10 a little further back between Jeff Chandler, James O'Brien, Chris Hudson, Joshua Daniels, and Pat Harvey.
Jeff Chandler, our early race leader, showed so much promise, so much speed in the short... That's a tongue twister and a half. So much speed in the short run. You cannot say that 10 times fast. He struggled on the long runs, though. He's found some ability here in the center of this long run here. We're about 29 laps into this cycle. He's still hanging on to the last spot in the top 10 with Josh Daniels. Look at Chris Hudson behind, trying to make this a 3-way battle for 10th.
It certainly is here. A three-way battle for 10th spot as Chris Hudson tries to get his way around to the inside of none other than the driver of the 33 of James O'Brien. He will clear him, as well as also Taylor Stout looks like to be following through in that number 66 machine. Or actually, no, that's a different machine right there. That is the Tamamasi machine.
We got an interesting experiment here, because remember, Tamamasi was one of those drivers who waited quite a while to come down pit road. He's gone a lap down because of it, which is unhelpful. But as I say that, I think Trent Dinkle is coming down pit road. He's the first driver to come in for that second stop. Speaking of alternate strategies, his teammate James O'Brien follows him in. It's private label team hype going off strategy.
A little bit off strategy call here. We'll see how this will play out between the two drivers. They will go a lap down, but the question is how quickly can they get back on the lead lap?
How quickly will Matthew Long react to this and cover this off? That's another question. James O'Brien in the box. Dinkle doesn't overcook it this time as well, so good stuff for both of them. Does Matthew Long cover this off? I'm looking in the background. It looks like he's not going to come in this time around. There will be at least one lap of undercut for Dinkle and O'Brien. As Matthew Long's running in the 42s, this could be a successful strategy. We do look a little bit deeper in the field. Chris Hudson on his drive back forward after that incident on lap number 1. I think his camera's even further away than it normally is today, but he's in the top 10 as he always is.
He certainly is in the top 10 as he always is, always ready to try and battle and jockey for position inside the top 10. Another one of the consistent drivers in the PRL Cup Series.
Waldo Walden coming in this time. Pat Harvey looks to be following him in as he's slow down there in the apron, and Abner Acosta's in as well.
Certainly is the case here as they work their way across. Here comes Acosta, Pat Harvey, and Waldo Walden down on pit road. The question is, when will the rest of the field decide to come down?
It's very interesting that the race leader, Matthew Long, isn't electing to really cover this off. Because that's normally what he does. Abner Acosta's normally the guy who stays out and goes for the move later on in the run. He's the guy who likes to be on offense instead of on defense. But he's decided to put himself on defense this time, as here comes Matthew Long, covering off Abner Acosta at least.
It certainly is the case here, as here he comes down on pit road. What about Seminario? Will he join? He will. Byron Johnson looks like he's going to try and come down. Joshua Daniels takes over the race lead with Jeff Chandler and Chris Hudson. These three in a spirited battle for the race lead at the moment.
I guess we shouldn't be surprised, even in the most crazy of circumstances, with Chris Hudson wrecking on lap 1, with Josh Daniels having a bad qualifying. Of course, Josh Daniels and Chris Hudson are still going to find each other on track. They're magnetized to each other.
They certainly are magnetized to each other, and they're going to put on a stellar drive. Here comes O'Brien around the top side to get back onto the lead lap.
There's that experiment I was talking about, the demonstration of fresh tires. He blows by him as Hudson, Chandler, and Daniels are all going to be in here. The whole of the top 3 in on lap number 70. The whole of the top 4 as Stout follows him in as well.
Stout's going to follow in 4 cars, make it 5 cars. As now we're going to see some more strategy plays here coming in on about 35 laps to go.
Jordan Slater's going to lead the risk takers. Richard Pruitt's going to stay out again. Remember, he made it very, very far on the previous stint. Medina's going to stay out. Luke Christian, I believe, will stay out as well. A lot of drivers hoping that the craziness of this pit cycle, the differently aged tires, brings out a caution. Jordan Slater almost just made himself the caution, though.
He certainly did almost make himself the caution as we watch these drivers jockey around for position. And here they go down. Jordan Slater will hold on to that first position for the time being. 3.4 seconds ahead of Richard Pruitt.
And look at how things have shook out for the overall race lead. Abner Acosta has passed Matthew Long, and Trent Dinkle's in the overall race lead as well. So Dinkle has gone from 3rd to the lead, and both private label team hype drivers with the undercut have dumped Matthew Long out of the lead.
They certainly have, and this is going to be exciting to see how this will play out here as Slater comes down pit road. There still is going to be about 7 drivers who have yet to pit.
And the tire ages aren't too different. It's 2 laps old for Abner Acosta. It's 1 lap old for Matthew Long. So it's not like Abner's going to be struggling a lot more later on in the run. I think this has been a fantastic strategy call for Acosta and for private label team Hype. And this might be his ticket to bringing that gap down in the championship. He's going to have to block off the run from Long here. There might need to be some teamwork from Dinkel and Acosta, but for now, it's every driver for themselves.
It really is every driver for themselves, but I think for Acosta and for Dinkel, they got to start really working together. They got to realize that Matthew Long is right there, and one mistake for these two battling, Matthew could be back up in getting the provisional race lead once the rest of the field comes down pit road.
Got to fight for position up ahead. That's Aaron Beaver, who is not a lap down. This is for position because Beaver's yet to pit. But again, you'll see the demonstration of the fresh tires. Beaver is currently running a second slower than these guys, so I don't think he'll be too difficult of a competitor to pass. He should probably just yeet it up to the top, and yes, indeed, he does. Rides the top, lets everybody go by on the bottom. There go your eventual race leaders down on the bottom.
They will go by and continue on with their merry way here for today's action.
Jose Medina is in. The stayer-outers are starting to dwindle. It's just Brett Pancari, Lou Christian, and Richard Pruitt left. If they want a caution, they're going to need it very, very quickly because Brett Pancari's next on Trent Dinkel's list, and he's only 2 seconds up the road.
He certainly is, so they got a lot of work to do to see if they can try to hold on to this position, or hopefully a yellow flag comes out to help them out a little bit toward this pit cycle, as these three drivers are now really working together to try to hunt down your race leaders.
Looks like a little bit of a holding pattern for the moment. All three of these drivers, as I always say, known for their long run speed, not necessarily known for throwing everything at each other early. And I don't think any of them are really going to show their hand until much later on in the run. There's still 30 laps to go in this race. It's a very, very long scheduled race here, and Abner Acosta's just desperately trying to hold his championship rival behind. So we look a little bit further back to where things are getting crazy. Pat Harvey, Waldo Walden, James O'Brien, they're all over the place.
He certainly is here, and we're going to keep an eye here as we see the driver of Byron Johnson trying to find an opening around Waldo Walden and Pat Harvey for the 10th position. Good points night possibly for Byron Johnson as he works his way around Aaron Beaver very quickly to get a little bit closer to a shot of the top 10.
Charles Sumner finally elects to come in, so I think he was already in the end of the top 15. I think he's going to go a lap down. But Richard Pruitt may be thinking about coming in very, very soon. He's had a little bit of a look at coming down pit road. Hasn't done it yet, though. Lou Christian still thinking about it. But our race leaders, or our eventual race leaders, rather, Trent Dinkel and the gang have caught Brett Pancari. And I think Richard Pruitt is having some real trouble here.
They seem to be having some trouble indeed here. They're trying to find an opening to get a run needed as they work themselves up a little bit closer through the field, as now Pat Harvey, Waldo Walden to the inside of James O'Brien to move up a position.
Pancari will be joining these guys shortly, as he has been passed by Dinkel, by Acosta, and by Matthew Long. He's been taken through the ringer. There he is, the head of your screen in the Peugeot next-gen car. It's always good to see that Peugeot. I was going to say earlier when we were talking about the Renault Clio Cup, it's going to be interesting to see Renaults racing at American tracks, which we know we're going to see. But we've already seen part of that with another French manufacturer here in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series.
It certainly is. I've seen, well, the closest thing I've seen to a Renault before, of course, the Clio Cup cars was a Corvette designed as a Renault. So that is definitely nothing new. We've seen French manufacturers competing in many different forms of American look-alike cars.
I wonder how that curling game is going. We should take a look at Brett Pancari again.
See if we can get a score update on the curling action here from Brent Pancari. We need to have a curling moment with Brett Pancari every so often.
Yeah, I don't remember how curling scoring works. I think it's like there's like rings, and if you land in a certain ring, you get a certain amount of points. I don't know. If Brett Pancari finishes in the top 3, I'll ask him about that. Lou Christian has come in, though. His curling game is over. He's probably gonna go a lap down. He's out of the top 2, and that leaves just Richard Pruitt up in the lead. But there it is.
Oh, there it is.
There's no score bug. There's no score bug. What are they doing?
Well, they are rushing away in order to try to see if they can get that into the center target, I would have to say, as best that they can and knock out everybody else in there. They are really going at it.
I'd like to welcome everybody personally to Curling Spot.
Welcome to RaceSpotTV's coverage of curling.
Well, there's, you know, flow racing. They have every sport. There's flow dance, flow march. We need Race Spot for curling. But here comes Richard Pruitt from the race lead. His experiment has finally come to an end. And now this three-way battle, which is now a four-way battle with Johan Seminario, becomes the battle for the win.
It certainly is, and they are really going to throw in the hats here. How about a five-car battle? Because right there is Pat Harvey. Waldo Walden not too far behind either. So all in all, you have a 8-car train to see who could come out with the race win, and Lou Christian, who's about to go another lap down.
This is a pretty incredible development here, because it looked like it was going to be an absolute Matthew Long fest at the head of this race, or at the head of this field. But with 2 laps of undercut, it's all come undone, and somehow the rest of the field has joined in, as it's now basically going to be an 8-car battle with James O'Brien joining the fray. And Lou Christian's going to be Trent Dinkle's worst nightmare right now, because he's on fresher tires. He's just going to drive away from Dinkle. He's got no reason to let him by.
He certainly does got no reason at all. He wants to try to be in contention for a championship here, and he's going to get a little bit of a tow from the 21 of Lou Christian. What will Acosta or Long do? They're going to stay tucked up behind, as just as I say that, Acosta shows the nose to the inside. Matthew Long goes to the top side of the racetrack.
Is this what Matthew Long has been saving for? Just saving that little bit of tire life to make the outside work, but it's 3 wide between Acosta, Dinkle, and O'Brien, and Matthew Long. Acosta gets a little bit of the draft from Lou Christian. That's very, very helpful from the last driver on the lead lap. But here we go, 3 wide to turn 1.
Lou Christian's probably wondering, where should I go? There is nowhere safe for him to go, as now Acosta clears Trent Dinkle. Will he clear Matthew Long? The answer is going to be not quite, as here comes Seminario with a head of steam.
Acosta got loose on exit, couldn't keep the momentum up, and Matthew Long is well and truly into the lead now. Acosta's going to lose second again to his teammate Trent Dinkle, and Seminario is going to try and follow him on the top.
He is going to try to follow him on the top here and try to get a good run, get a big push right there. Lou Christian being very aggressive, keeping Matthew Long behind him.
Dinkle going for some big blocks on Seminario as well. Seminario giving a push to Dinkle. We know we're in the last stint right now. Things are getting very, very aggressive, and that's going to make Matthew Long a very, very happy boy, because they're all too busy fighting for second to catch back up to him.
They are certainly all too busy fighting for second, and this is going to be allowing Matthew Long to pull ahead once again, just like we saw earlier. And now this is going to be very detrimental for these drivers.
Byron Johnson, the king of the high side, doing his thing up there again, but it's great to see these spectacular moves. It's fun to see drivers running the top, but there's still 22 laps left in this race. It is a never-ending race, and there's still 40 miles to go.
There certainly is still 40 miles to go. Still a lot of racing left to go for your competitors, as we see the 5 machine of Abner Acosta battling with Byron Johnson in the top 5 as they now go to the inside. Seminario stays up to the top side. Acosta tries to get a little bit of a slingshot around, but does not have enough momentum to make it work.
If Abner's still saving anything, it's probably too late to use it. There's still plenty of laps left to go, but he's getting aggressive. Off of turn 4, leaves little to no room for Johan Seminario, but he's just boxed in. His teammate is blocking him off. He makes a little bit of contact with Seminario coming down the front straight. It's close quarters all the way through.
Close quarters, and you hope there's going to be no more contact, but we're seeing contact, full contact racing at over 190 miles an hour.
It's like curling. We're getting bumped.
We are getting bumped indeed, but this is the kind of bump you do not want to get.
Costa's still trying to hang to the inside. He's getting YS Motorsports deja vu like he was with Clayton Ham earlier. A little bit tight on entry to 3. Off turn 4, leaves a little bit more room for Seminario this time. This is a bobble from Trent Dinkle, and that's going to open the door for Abner.
It is going to open up the door for Abner Acosta to the inside, side by side battle for second. Trent Dinkle, though, does have help from Seminario and Byron Johnson to keep him up ahead of Abner Acosta. But with those two battling, it's allowing your race leader, Matthew Long, to pull away by a second over the rest of the field.
Seminario had to lift a little bit there. Dinkle wasn't quite clear. He made himself clear, though. And Abner's got another run coming down the back straight into turn 3 again to the inside of his teammate. How often can they play like this? For how much longer can they leave each other this little room? Off of turn 4 this time, the 9 and the 5. They're being respectful to each other as teammates, but they are slowing each other down.
They certainly are slowing each other down. A lot of things still to happen here, and this is not good in the closing stages. This race win with Matthew Long could probably help him lock up the championship going into Vegas.
Seminario still running the top. I'm going to do the math in my head here. A win in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, because of the bonus points, usually gets you about 51, 52 points. So theoretically, with the rules on the oval side, where points go all the way down to 30th, they go deeper than 30th. They go down to 40th. But there's only going to be about 30 drivers in the field, most likely. That's like a 39-point delta or so down to 30th between a win and 30th. So as long as Acosta's within 39 points, he's still got a chance, but you don't want to be deep in the double digits. If you're 27 points behind in the championship, it might be mathematically possible, but that's not a position that boosts your confidence.
No, it really is not, and you got to be so confident enough to going into the final round of the championship to be able to see if you can do that. In order to do that, you got us to learn to play a little bit of offense and defense here, and doing that here, Acosta does not seem to be doing that. He's really being very aggressive with the blocking, not really wanting to work with his teammate to hunt down the race leader as well.
Seminario's run is dead. He slots back in the line behind his other teammate, Byron Johnson. So it is a trio of teammates here. It's Private Label Team Hype, Private Label Team Hype, YS Motorsports, YS Motorsports, SGE Esports, SGE Esports. So a trio of teammates here. It's almost like tandem drafting at Daytona, but single file.
It certainly is, and these drivers are trying to see what they can do to see if they can find a way to pull a fast one over the opposing team that they have to deal with in front of them or behind them in order to try to gain a couple extra positions.
Here comes Abner again. He's got another shot on his teammate into turn 1. Here comes the 5, scraping the blue paint off the side of his teammate's car for good measure. But Abner's got the bottom. His teammate's trying to rip the top, and they're not going to leave each other's side once again.
They are going to hold on for dear life.
Yes, they are. I thought they were going to be locked in step there. Dinkle has been so good on the high side, but he lost all of his momentum, even with the slide from Abner Acosta. Acosta is up to second, finally.
Yeah, but how much time can he gain here? There's not a lot of time. 15 laps to go for your race leader, Matthew Long. Does he have enough pace to go and hunt down your race leader? Meanwhile, here comes Byron Johnson and Johan Seminario. They're going to go the inside of Trent Dinkle.
Bit tight for Byron Johnson. Things are starting to get scary. We're getting late in the run. Tires are wearing. Remember a couple of weeks ago, week 2 of the season, last time we went to a 2-mile oval in Michigan, Byron Johnson finished 3rd, got the best result of his PRL career. He loves tracks like this, and he would love to have a top 3 again.
He certainly would love to have a top 3 here tonight, and he's going to try to see what he can do. He's getting a big push. He just needs to get around the driver of Trent Dinkle. Dinkle being very aggressive with the blocking.
Byron trying to build up the run. Can't get it, though. Trent Dinkle has just been so strong in the middle of the road. And now my question is, are these two Private Label Team Hype teammates talking to each other? Are Abner and Trent communicating right now and saying, you know what, Trent? It looks like neither of us are going to win this race unless a caution comes out, so please don't steal any more points than you need to from me. If you can just ride behind in 3rd, that would be great.
We'll see if that comes into play, because also Trent Dinkle is mathematically eligible for a possible chance at the championship as well.
I don't think he is because of the rounds he's missed this season, but that's not a very Trent Dinkle thing to do, to just hang back. He definitely wants every position and every point he can get. But sometimes you got to think, what's going on in Private Label Team Hype land? Who's talking in their ears?
We'll see here how it plays out for the rest of the race as they work their way out of turn number 4. And Acosta still 2.7 seconds back and falling. He's now at the 2.8 right now as they come across the line, making 2.9.
I also just checked the data again, and Trent Dinkel has been a confusing old guy this season because he has not actually missed a race in the Cup Series this season. I could have sworn he did, but no, it's just the Xfinity Series on Wednesday nights that he's missed a solid chunk of the season, and he also had his F3 exploits later on in the season. It has been a confusing season for Trent Dinkel, to say the very least. But Pat Harvey and Johan Seminario, one stalwart of the series, one driver making his season debut, trying to fight over the last spot in the top 5. Pat Harvey has been maybe the driver in the field we've mentioned the least tonight. He's trying to get himself a little bit of TV time late.
He's doing a great job of that, running inside the top 6 here as he tries to battle. They go around the lap car of Mark Kalin. You have Clayton Ham still amongst the mix, Waldo Walden, as they work their way off. A little bit of close call right there between Kalin and Harvey.
Harvey running the Abner Acosta line down in the bottom, but look who's behind him. It's his SGE teammate of Waldo Walden. Getting a little bit of a run, having to lift a little bit off of 4, though. That's going to kill his momentum. Waldo Walden's another guy who wants a top 5, though.
Waldo having a great run here. He's going to try to see if he can help his teammate to go hunt down for a chance of the top 5. Maybe the two of them can get by Johnson and Seminario.
Waldo has one top 5 this season from Atlanta, and that was old Atlanta. That was the race where we just shredded some tires. So Waldo Walden has shown some great long run speed this season. He's got 9 more laps in this one to show even more. But it is very much a holding pattern here in second. And it has been a very slow holding pattern because with 8 laps to go at the line, Matthew Long has pulled 3.2 seconds over Abner Acosta. Unless Abner starts running 0.4 a lap faster than Matthew Long, Long's got this thing in the bag. Unless that Y word comes out.
It certainly is the case here, but for here we're going to take a look at Joe Hoggard and the other YS Motorsports machine. A little bit further back inside the top 15 for the time being as he just got around Robert Besaw Jr. And right now, unless something happens, he's got a lot of work to do to go catch Brandon Walters in 14th.
This should still be a confidence-boosting race for Seminario because, as I said, has not. I think his best result of the season so far was outside of the top 10. I'm gonna have to check the data myself and get the exact number, but it has not been the season he wanted. Running in this series, though, running in the FTF Cup Series as well. It's a very populated year in the next-gen car for Johan Seminario. He's getting more and more track time, and this is going to be a good result for him if he can hang on to the top 5.
It really is going to be a good result for him for the season as we're coming up to 8 laps to go. Seminario still holding strong with that top 5 with his teammate Byron Johnson as they're going to try to see if they can work together to get into the podium positions.
The previous best result for Seminario this season, 14th. So how about a 10-spot improvement if he can get by his teammate?
And it is definitely a big improvement here as Johnson tries to go to the inside of Trent Dinkel, sends it in a little bit deeper, can't quite make it work, but it still remains side by side, almost makes slight contact. This opens the door for Seminario to go around the outside.
I'm sure Abner's not rooting for his teammate's demise, but he's definitely looking in the mirror thinking, you know what, if Byron Johnson could do that again and bring out a caution, that would be pretty helpful for me. But those are the haymakers that we're finally starting to see here. There is single digits of laps left to go. Finite is not all right for Byron Johnson or for Johan Seminario. They got to start making moves quick.
They do. They got to find a ways and find openings and take it. Here comes Byron Johnson to the inside. Seminario is going to follow him to the bottom of the racetrack. They're going to try to move Trent Dinkel up the track a little bit further. Pat Harvey going right up against the wall off turn 2.
Oh, there is contact again. That was absolutely contact. Nobody gets turned. It was very straight contact. It was parallel contact, but they hit each other. There was no room left there.
There was certainly no room whatsoever as they head back into turn 3 and 4. They're coming to get the big high five from Barney the Flagman. 5 laps to go here at Auto Club.
See if Byron Johnson gets a shot again here. He's in the draft. He's got to run. I think he's a little bit further back than he was in the previous lap, though. So Trent Dingle may get to live another day with a lower heart rate on this lap. But Byron Johnson has made things known. He is not going anywhere as he moves up to the high line, builds up some momentum. He might have a shot on Trent Dingle into turn 3 this time.
He may certainly try to give a big shunt right here as they work their way down the back straightaway. Here comes the big run as they try to close in on Abner Acosta. The battle for second is going to still rage on. Trent Dingle holding on as best he can for third as Johnson and Seminario and Pat Harvey try to poke and prod, trying to find a little bit of a niche in the armor of Trent Dingle.
Here we go again. It's Byron Johnson time. Not quite. Can't get to the inside. Now he does. To the inside, to the outside. Barely to the inside of Trent Dingle, if for but a moment. Dinkle's going to hang on again through the middle of the corner. Johnson's trying to fight back. There's a little bit of a bobble for Dingle, and that's going to save his run.
Going to save his run quite a bit here. Seminario's going to push his teammate of Byron Johnson around to the inside, move him up to P3, but Dingle will fight back on the outside lane.
Whoa, a little bit of a lift from Johnson there to not get into the side of Dingle again. Seminario is the most helpful driver in the world right now. Byron Johnson needs to give him a very big thanks after this. They're locked in step again. Here he comes into turn 1 once more.
Here they go back at it once again. Pat Harvey, he's going to run right up against the outside wall once again. Not enough momentum to help him get the position away from Seminario or Johnson or Dingle, but he's still in contention if something were to happen amongst these three.
Seminario can't get down to help his teammate this time, though. His teammate has left him, and it's Johan Seminario up into the top 4. Here comes Pat Harvey as well. Seminario was finally unable to help his teammate. Now he's got a job of his own to try and get by Trent Dingle for the top 3 himself.
He certainly is, and he's got the popsicle sticks in the air. 2 laps to go for your race leader, Matthew Long, who has checked out to a 4.2-second lead.
Seminario was looking to the high side for some reason. Couldn't do anything with that. The door gets shut by Trent Dingle, and they're all running high. Dingle steals the top from Seminario. He knows he wanted to go up there, and that is going to stunt his momentum a ton. Seminario's got to run, but is it a good enough run to send it into turn 3? Not this time. He's going to think about it, but it's not possible. He's going to follow Dingle up to the high side again, but he's going to get even higher.
He's going to go because this cost him the chance to lose that fourth position. As here comes Pat Harvey to the inside. Side-by-side battle for 4th as Seminario shuts the door in front of him. He's going to try to cross over Trent Dingle, who's being very aggressive with the blocking.
White flag is in the air. The caution never came for Abner Acosta, but the battle for 3rd rages on. Dingle and Seminario make a little bit of contact through turns 1 and 2. Seminario with the momentum on the outside is gonna win out there. Dingle gets back in line, almost gets into the wall off at 2. That's gonna bring Johnson and Harvey into the fight as Seminario drives off into the distance. But even further in the distance, Matthew Long just needed to outscore Abner Acosta, just needed to get a couple of extra points, but he's only gone and won again for the 5th time in 9 races. Matthew Long is a winner this season.
And with that win here, as they come across the line, Acosta 2nd, and it looks like Seminario will get 3rd as some more contact between Dingle and Byron Johnson as they come across.
So Abner will still be in mathematical contention for the championship, but it is going to be an uphill battle for Abner Acosta. Matthew Long has done everything he needed to do. 2.7 seconds at the line. Nobody could touch Matthew Long tonight.
Nobody can, and with that guarantees a good chance for him to win the championship next week at Las Vegas.
This has been one of the all-time great Cup Series seasons for any driver in the PRL. 5 wins in 9 races. Does not happen often. It's happened a couple times. We've seen drivers like Bradley Holly, Trent Dingle, Richard Regan Jr. They've had similar levels of success, but the total dominance that Matthew Long has showed so far this season, even when he's not winning, he's still finishing 2nd, he's still finishing 3rd, he's still having incredible results everywhere he goes.
He certainly is, and that's what's so amazing about Matthew Long this season, being able to put on some exciting battles and exciting runs all day long.
Matthew Long, victorious, even further ahead than I thought he was. At 4.3 seconds at the line over Abner Acosta. Johan Seminario, a top 3 for the first time in the PRL. And Trent Dinkle falls to 4th on the final lap. He still beat Byron Johnson to the line, just barely. Pat Harvey, Waldo Walden, Josh Daniels, Jeff Chandler, and Clayton Ham rounded out the top 10. Then just outside the top 10, last week's winner Taylor Stout missed out. James O'Brien, P12 ahead of Chris Hudson. Mr. Sausage and Peppers, Brandon Walter, 14th, ahead of Robert Besaw Jr. Joe Hoggard had a little bit of a lonely battle with Besaw in 16th. Slater, Hassett, Gamble, and Medina bring us down to P20. Then Pruitt and Christian were the last 2 drivers on the lead lap. Christian got into some trouble early, still managed to recover a lead lap finish, though. Olland, Beaver, Sumner, Amasi, and Punkari all went off strategy, all ended up a lap down, as did Mark Kalin, who got a speeding penalty. Richard Regan Jr. still brought it to the end of the race, surprisingly, but 15 laps down. And then we get into the used car lot of drivers with heavy damage. Jay McDonald, Eric Papineau, and Roy Grande did not make it to the end of the race for one reason or another. But the guy who made it to the end of the race before anybody else, Matthew Long, is here with us again. 4.3 seconds ahead of Abner at the line. You were so lonely up front. How was that?
That's pretty fun, man. I had Lou. Lou helped me pull away there at the end. So, yeah, man, we had a great piece we brought to the track today. And I think Friday this week we landed on something with the car that really took off and felt pretty good coming into this race. Good car. I love this track. Just knew if I came in and executed and we didn't get any late race cautions. I was really glad about that. I knew if those things happened, we'd have a good shot at winning today. So glad all that came together.
Yeah, I know that's definitely what Abner was hoping for at the end of the race there, but this is very good for your championship. Coming into Vegas next week, there's still going to be a mathematical chance of Abner in contention, but you have to feel pretty confident being 30 plus points up, I think, once the scores get calculated out.
Yeah, for sure. This helped. Like always, I just try to take 1 week at a time. And, I got to show up at Vegas and execute and not make any mistakes. I know Abner he'll be right up there, taking advantage of any mistakes if I make them. So, yeah, I like Vegas. It's a good track for us. So, we'll get to work this week and hopefully bring a good car.
All right. Congrats on the 5th win in 9 races this season, more than half of the wins this season, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks. Yeah, I can't do it by myself. I got to thank all the guys at Dirty South. Taylor Stout did some amazing work with the car this week. Jim, Chris, Rich, and I know I'm forgetting. Who am I forgetting? Bobby. I can't forget about Bobby. So thanks to those guys for helping bring a good car. Appreciate it, guys.
Matthew Long victorious with the power of Dirty South Racing tonight. Driver who came up just short, but will still be in championship contention mathematically. Abner Acosta's with Taylor Burris.
Here with Abner Acosta. Abner just could not be able to close the gap here towards the end. Had a strong run for the most part, but what was the thing that you were missing in order to go and challenge for the race win?
Don't know. I mean, Matt was super fast. It looks like they had a fast set. I think at the end there, when he got by, I got stuck for like 8 laps fighting. And that kind of like sealed the deal. But even if I would have gotten by, I don't know that would have had anything from Matt. He was just definitely quicker than us today.
Well, with that, we move on to Las Vegas. Do you feel like you can maybe try to see about a shot mathematically with the championship, or is it just now focus on just going for the win and getting ready for season 2?
Yeah, it's more like focus for the win. I don't, Matt will have to make like a huge mistake for things to go down. But still, yeah, just looking forward to Las Vegas and try again. And just continue to get better.
Well, anyone you would like to give a shout out to, Abner, before we let you go?
I want to thank everybody at Private Label Team Hype and the guys, Tommy, Trent, James, Ty, Brandon, Ethica, you guys at RaceSpot for broadcasting, and PRL for hosting the league. Thank you.
So that is Abner Acosta coming home in P2. And Joey, I believe you have a very special driver going to be joining us up here in the booth.
Indeed I do. Finally, for the first time this season, Johan Seminario showed up at Fontana. Top 3 for the first time this season. How's that feel?
It feels absolutely great. You know, we've been having a bit of a slump, you know, with getting some stuff fine-tuned and overall just getting the team together. So I think today really showed the strength that the team has. It was just awesome being able to run up here in the top 10 with all these guys, you know.
So how much did running a whole nother race distance in another league race earlier this week help?
It helped a lot. Let me tell you, those FTF guys are on a different, that is like a preliminary E-Coke series right there. I've never been in such intense racing before. They were just going 190% from lap 1. It was just like how I was here in PRL. It really helped a lot being able to like follow a couple of the E-Coke guys and all that.
So next week, it's the championship finale. It's the season finale at Vegas. You've got your first top 3 in the board. Is this the start of a streak?
I'm hoping so. I can definitely see myself fighting for more here. Like I said, we're finally getting things tuned down here. Racing these guys, you know, the entire private label team, a Dirty South Racing. These guys are a lot of fun to race with. So I'm hoping I could continue to push for podiums, maybe get a win. I felt like I was fighting a little bit in the beginning for at least the P1, P2, but pushed a little too hard at the end.
Well, congrats on the result this week, Johan, and we will see you at the championship finale next week.
For sure. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Johan Seminario of YS Motorsports, hopefully the first of many chances to get to talk to us. We got a few more hits to keep on coming here, and who's next? Who else but Trent Dinkle comes home 4th?
Here with Trent Dinkle coming home P4. Trent, you were in a very spirited battle coming to the line with Byron Johnson and a couple of others. Do we sense another rivalry starting to blossom as we get ready for the end of the season and moving into 2023 season 2?
No, it was fun. I think honestly, like I was just trying to kind of hold Abner and Matt up a little bit when we came out of the pits, and I think I was just going too slow. I think if we would have just checked out or even just let those two go and they could have fought it out and I would have just cruised along, you know, that probably would have been a better option for me. But, you know, considering I literally got home at like 6:15 before this race started and had like 15 minutes to get ready, I'm pretty damn happy with the 4th place.
Well, with that, it was definitely an exciting battle. Of course, Las Vegas is next week as we see a little furry friend joining you down there beside you on screen.
Yeah.
But moving to Las Vegas, what's your thoughts about going there and getting ready for wrapping up the 2022 season or 2023 season 1 championship?
Well, I mean, I hope I just finish decent because this year's just been absolutely terrible for me for every reason you could pretty much think of. So, you know, we got Road to Pro nowadays, so I know I'm going to be spending a lot of time doing that, and the trucks is like Daytona but at Las Vegas, so I'm gonna have to definitely do lots of practice back and forth for, you know, this and the trucks. But I'm sure it's just gonna be another Sunday night of who can save the right rear the most, and whoever can do that's probably gonna win.
Well, before we let you go, anyone you'd like to say thank you to there, Trent?
Definitely a big thanks to, you know, Private Label, you know, Tommy and Ty, and it's been a long time since we've had them both with us, so that was fun. And then, you know, big thanks to like James and Brandon and Abner, because I really didn't race much this week because I didn't think I was going to race, and then I got home and I was like, well, I might as well race. So yeah.
Well, that is Trent Dinkle coming home with a 4th place finish here tonight, and our final interview is going to be Byron Johnson. He is with Joey Tippin.
Indeed, it is. Last driver in the top 5, but Byron Johnson again competing in the top 3, competing in those lead spots. You're so good at Michigan earlier this season. What's it about you and 2 mile ovals?
I don't know what it is about that, but it always feels really good racing to have some of these really big tracks like that. But it's kind of disappointing that I've finished. There's only 2 spots in the top 5 I have yet to finish yet. So looking for that P1 here soon.
So what was that battle like in those last couple of laps? Trent seemed like he had a lot of fun when you guys were rubbing doors, but how was it from your side?
It was a lot of fun. It could be frustrating at times. Just he knew exactly how to block well, and he was doing a good job at it. And in the moment, it's frustrating, but afterwards, you get done, you're like, man, that was actually a ton of fun doing that. So no ill will towards him or anything like that. So it was fun though.
We got one more race in this season. It's flown by. It's Las Vegas coming up. How do you feel about the combination coming up?
It's not bad. It's been a long time since I've ran Vegas, and I'm not sure if I've ever ran it in the next gen, but I do really like these 1.5 mile, 2 mile ovals. They're a lot of fun to me. So hopefully that'll be a good race for the season finale.
I hope it'll be that indeed as well. But congrats on the another top 5, and we'll see you next week at Vegas.
Yep. Real quick, just want to shout out RPM Transmissions, Bill Halstead from Halstead Home Inspections, everybody at Yellow Stripe Motorsports for putting together this team, and yeah, that's about it.
That is about it. Byron Johnson, top 5 once again. And if we go to Michigan, I think we'll go to Michigan again next season if the dates line up. And something tells me we'll be looking for him there as well. But that's going to round out our coverage here of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series this week. One more race to go next week at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's the championship finale. It'll be the last championship finale because it is PRL Championship Week. Coming up tomorrow night, it's the championship finale for the GR86 Series and the GT4 Series. Then after that, it's the championship finale for the GT3 Series on Tuesdays, both the Sprint and the Fixed Series. Then on Wednesday, it's the season finale for the Truck and Xfinity Series. On Thursdays, the season finale for the IRO4s and the F3 Series. And then, of course, finally, next Sunday, it'll be Las Vegas Motor Speedway, the PRL NASCAR Cup Series finale. Then we take a 3-week break, and then we come back a little bit later on in March. But we hope you'll join us for any and all of those championship finales. For me, I've been Joey Tebbin. Taylor Burris has been Taylor Burris. Our producer has been Hugo Luis. And our intrepid insider has been Nicholas Hunter. Until we see you next time, so long.